What is it? What is it about humanity that wants to go to all the details and stuff and listen? You know, these guys like Fauci get up there and start talking. You know, he doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing. You know, he doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing.
People should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. There are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course, of course.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there? Of course.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater.
Dr. Fauci, on March 11th of this year, you testified before the Oversight Committee saying on March 11th, the country had confirmed just over 1,200 cases and 31 deaths. Thank you very much. At the risk of...
And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
Let me ask you about some of the decisions that you worked with Kary on the testing that you involved in.
Testing, what do we have to do to continue to get better?
Well, I think you can get
Very much, Dr. Fauci. The chair now recognizes Ms. Wallace.
People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
Masks are not theater.
a strong message to China. This will not be tolerated. I'm glad the administration...
I think this is sort of mischievous with the day before. So I guess people want to make a big of that. I wear a mask all the time when I'm outside. To pull it down, to take some sips of water and put it back up again. I guess if people want to make something about that, they can.
The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. He doesn't understand electron microscopy, and he doesn't understand medicine, and he should not be in a position like he's in. And he doesn't understand medicine, and he should not be in a position like he's in.
Why am I not wearing a face mask now? Okay, there are a couple of reasons. One of them is that part of the major reason to wear a face mask is to protect you from infecting you. I had my test yesterday and it's negative. Wearing masks now is just not relevant. You don't need to be walking around with a mask right now. Masks, quite frankly, are more important for people who are infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. I don't think people should be frightened. I mean, the risk right now, today, currently, is really relatively low.
Right now, the CDC is saying masks should only be worn if you're sick or you're taking care of someone who is.
But when we get in a situation where we have enough masks, I believe there will be some very serious consideration about more broadening this recommendation of using masks. We're not there yet, but I think we're close to coming to some determination. In fact, you need some supplementation to just physical distancing. And that's the reason why some time ago, the recommendation was made, I believe it was Dr. Redfield at the CDC who first said that, about getting some sort of a covering. We don't want to call it a mask because back then we were concerned we'd be taking masks away from the healthcare providers. But some sort of mask-like facial covering, I think for the time being, should be a very regular part of how we prevent the spread of infection. As the information changes, then you have to be flexible enough and humble enough to be able to change how you think about things.
One mask is better than zero masks. 2 masks is better than 1 mask. But you don't have to have double masks. Is that right? I mean,
it is.
And now we're hearing we should wear 2. Where do you stand on that? If I go to the grocery store, do I wear 2? Do I wear 3? Is it safer to wear 8? Where does it stop?
Well, no, the discussion is changing, not the goalpost. So the CDC doesn't officially recommend wearing double masks.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is to get individuals who are not wearing masks to wear masks. Then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
So if you have a physical covering with one layer, you put another layer on, it just makes common sense that it likely would be more effective. And that's the reason why you see people either double masking or doing a version of an N95.
Virginia Tech researchers found that doubling up these cloth masks increases the efficacy from 50 to 75%. A 3-layer mask could block up to 90% of the particles.
Most of those guys up there on the top are just total administrative people, and they don't know anything about what's going on the bottom. You know, those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way. They've got a personal kind of agenda. They make up their own rules as they go. They change them when they want to, and they smugly, like Tony Fauci, does not mind going on television in front of the people that pay his salary and lie directly into the camera.
Have you taken a test? Are you going to take a test?
No. Well, I'm not taking a test for the same reason. I have no symptoms. I have not. I'm practicing pretty good social distancing. I don't go to.
But it's hard to. It's hard to fully do it as we.
But not everybody in the United States should take a test. I mean, I have no symptoms. There's no reason for me to take a test.
I have so many questions to ask you, as you can imagine. But first off, it's been 24 hours since you got the Moderna vaccine. How are you feeling? Any side effects? Is your arm sore?
Well, I actually feel quite good. I do have a little bit of a sore arm. Went to bed last night, had a good night's sleep. Woke up this morning. The only thing I have is just a little bit of a soreness in the arm. The only thing I have is just a little bit of a soreness in the arm.
You can't expect the sheep to really respect the best and the brightest. They don't know the difference, really. I mean, I like humans. Don't get me wrong, but basically, the vast majority of them do not possess the ability to judge who is and who isn't a really good scientist. I mean, that's a problem. That's a main problem, actually, with science, I'd say, in this century, because science is being judged by people. Funding is being done by people who don't understand it, because science is being judged by people. Funding is being done by people who don't understand it.
You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that, and it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
Over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else.
I think the numbers that you ran through were, if you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah.
That there's a famous scientist in the Wuhan lab. Her name is Dr. Shi, and she published a paper a couple years ago, which has been reviewed by MIT and says that it's a gain of function research. But in the byline, she has to list the sponsors. She lists Dr. Fauci and the NIAID as a sponsor of her research.
Trump's decision to withhold WHO funding has upset one of the organization's most prominent supporters. Well, that's Microsoft founder Bill Gates tweeting in part, halting funding for the WHO during a world health crisis is as dangerous as it sounds. The world needs them now more than ever. Well, the truth is the group actually needs Gates more than ever. With the U.S. taking a pause, he'll now be their largest active donor. That's right, 1 out of every 10 bucks that the WHO gets is from the world's second wealthiest man. So should we be concerned about how much one man has maybe an outsized influence with an obviously corruptible entity such as the WHO? Joining me now is Cheryl Shumley, who is the Washington Times opinion editor, has been writing up a storm about all this. Cheryl, is all that money from Gates influencing how the WHO operates?
Definitely. And thanks for having me, Laura, to talk about this issue that's really fallen under the radar. Bill Gates wields tremendous influence at the World Health Organization, and I'm not the only one saying that. Back in 2017, Politico, which, as you know, is not even considered a far-right or conservative publication, Politico called him the World Health Organization doctor, that he had such influence that when he wanted a policy pushed, that the World Health Organization bureaucrats would oftentimes cave to his wishes. And it's not just funding that we need to be worried about in America. This is an unelected guy who really has no political affiliation with America, and yet he has been given a huge platform to push what I view as anti-American policies based on coronavirus figures. And this is something that he's not going to be held accountable to by voters.
Well, here's what the Gates Foundation has given to the World Health Organization and related organizations. Okay, 395 grants totaling $3.6 billion to the WHO. He pledged up to $100 million for the global response to COVID-19. He pledged $279 million to the Institute for Health Metrics and the Evaluation at the University of Washington. That's that IHME model that, of course, initially wasn't all that accurate in predicting what was going on with this virus. It's more accurate now with all the new data. And he gave $13.5 million in grants to the CDC Foundation. People think the CDC is just kind of an independent government agency, but they get money from the Gates Foundation. So it seems like Gates has his hand in pretty much everything pandemic-related, Cheryl. It seems like Gates has his hand in pretty much everything pandemic-related, Cheryl.
I mean, I've had a lot of people, president of the University of South Carolina, ask Fauci if he'd come down there and debate me on the stage in front of the student body, because I wanted somebody who was from the other side to come down there and balance because I felt like, well, these guys can listen to me, but I need to have somebody else down here that's going to tell me the other side. But Fauci didn't want to do it.